Chapter 64. The determination of the iron-blooded troop. 3. The old Feng Ruqing had insisted on giving the iron-blooded token to noble consort Rong. On that day, the whole iron-blooded troop kneeled at her door. They listed out the challenges faced by the Empress and even described to her about the hardship in forming the iron-blooded troop in hopes of convincing her to get the iron-blooded token back. However, what Feng Ruqing said had completely broken every troop member's heart into pieces. She said she was the owner of the troop while they were just her servants. Since they were the people her imperial mother had given to her, she had the right to give them to anyone she liked. Nobody could question or stop her. To her, these people were not any different from the spirit beasts which could be tossed around. Since then, the troop members had never begged her for anything again. Their broken hearts simply could not feel warmth anymore. Tangzi tightened her fists. On that fateful day, no matter how they pleaded with her, she had just ignored their request to get the iron-blooded token back. Why did she choose to get it back now? Could it be due to their cold treatment toward noble consort Rong? So she asked Feng Ruqing to be the middle person? Nevertheless, the iron-blooded troop was different from other military troops. The imperial city's military troop was affiliated with the whole kingdom, so they had to obey the military order given by anyone who had the military token in hand. However, these women chose to follow their instincts, and as they were pampered by His Majesty, had never failed to give a long face to noble consort Rong. Up until today, noble consort Rong still could not forcefully confront them as she feared the troops' power. Did noble consort Rong request you to come here? Tangzi mocked her and laughed bitterly. Besides noble consort Rong, who dares or is able to command you, the princess? Even if you have given her the iron-blooded token, we will never obey her commands. Ask her to give it up. Feng Ruqing sighed. How serious was the trauma caused by the previous owner? Even though she was genuine and sincere, nobody was willing to trust her. I understand that it's impossible for you to trust me fully, but please don't worry. I will prove myself to you, and all of you will submit to me willingly based on my own ability. I will never depend on my father's power. If Feng Ruqing really wanted something, she could just tell Feng Tianyu about it. They would still somehow obey his command. However, they did not fully trust her. If they were forced to submit to her, they might not assist her wholeheartedly. What she really needed was their loyalty. This time, I did not bring any gifts for you except for some fruits. Unfortunately, there are not many of them, so I have used my spiritual force to turn them into juice. However, this juice had been diluted by her. There were too many troop members that the juice would not be enough if she did not dilute it. Even though she had diluted the juice, she predicted that each person could only drink a mouthful of it. Luckily, divine spirit fruit she had planted contained high spiritual qi, so even though it was diluted, it could still help in relieving fatigue. Except for the fact that the effect was not as fast and as effective as eating the whole fruit. Tangzi and fellow women stared at Feng Ruqing, who had put down the 2 teapots. They did not utter a single word. Everyone was puzzled at the real intention behind the princess' behavior today. How could she be so kind as to bring over some fruit juice for them? I better not disturb your training. Do ask the rest of the troop members to come here. I have purposely bought it from the spirit herb shop. Although the grade 1 divine spirit fruit was the easiest to grow among the grade 1 spirit herbs, it was becoming rarer due to the spirit beasts. That was why it was quite difficult to get them in this land, or General Nalen would not have been thrilled by it before this. The other spirit herbs were quite easy to get from the spirit herb shop. Of course, Feng Ruqing did not tell them these stories. Even though the number of the divine spirit fruits was lower now, it was still available. Thus, it should not be a problem when she had claimed that the fruits were from the spirit herb shop. Chapter 65. Her transformation. Tangzi bit her lips softly. She stared at Feng Ruqing, but no words came out of her mouth. Feng Ruqing shrugged and left the place after she had put down the teapots. She knew that she was not welcomed. Until she was gone, Tangzi and the rest of the troop members did not open their mouths to stop her from leaving. Tangzi, this divine spirit fruit juice, is it authentic? The woman in a purple attire muttered softly. Last time, when General Nalen was preparing to go for a battle, she had brought him a pot of tea to send him off. The general thought she had transformed into a better person, so he drank it happily. However, he ended up having diarrhea and it had affected his departure to the battlefield. She had done too many evil things to the extent that people did not believe her anymore. Finally, Tangzi made up her mind and lifted the teapot and poured herself a small cup of juice. As the others tried to stop her from drinking, she already gulped down the juice in one shot. "I want to be completely disappointed," Tangzi said and laughed bitterly after wiping the juice from the corners of her mouth. The whole courtyard fell silent. Nobody said a word. In fact, all of them understood that Tangzi still had a glimpse of hope in the princess. Although she kept saying that she had given up on her, she still hoped that the princess would change. After a long wait, the diarrhea that they had expected did not happen. Tangzi's exhaustion, which initially showed on her face, had slowly disappeared after drinking the divine spirit fruit juice. Her energy was gradually restored. "Tangzi, how are you feeling now?" The woman in a purple attire asked her hesitantly. Tangzi stared blankly at the teapot on the stone table. After staying silent for a moment, she lifted up her head and uttered, "This divine spirit fruit is real." She had initially thought that Feng Ruching would prank them like what she had done to General Nayland by adding something fishy into the drink. She had even prepared herself for the worst. However, she did not expect that her strength, which was exhausted during the training, was slowly recovered after drinking the juice. "Ling Yun, ask the rest of our troop members to come here." Tangzi stared confusedly in the direction where Feng Ruching had just left. She had really came here just to send the divine spirit fruit to them, not to prank them, or to advise them to submit to noble consort Rome. Feng Ruching was unable to predict what were in Tangzi and the rest of the members' minds. Initially, she had planned to pay Feng Tianyu a visit. However, when she had reached the imperial study, she heard Feng Tianyu and a minister's voices discussing something, so she left without disturbing them. The imperial palace looked serene and tranquil at night. At this very moment, she suddenly sensed a chaotic spiritual force from the small alley nearby. Feng Ruching subconsciously stopped her in her tracks. She stroked her chin as she felt that something interesting might happen right at this very moment. Someone lost control to the point of possession? TSK, this is interesting. If it had happened in other places, she would not have even be bothered about it. However, this happened in Lu Yun Kingdom, which was her father's territory. She was curious to know the person who had lost control during cultivation. If this incident affected the lives of the citizens of Lu Yun Kingdom, it would not be good. Feng Ruching turned and walked into the alley. An abandoned house stood at the end of the alley. That was where the chaotic spiritual force came from. She walked toward the entrance to the abandoned house and pushed the door open. What she could see was only a courtyard filled with weed and grass, and a youth who looked like a beggar sitting in the middle of the courtyard. His hair was messy and disheveled. His clothes were torn and shabby. There was also a faint pink scar on his dirty, ashen face. He looked like he had not washed his face for a long time. Chapter 66. Her transformation too, but Feng Ruching's eyes dilated in fear because of this face which was covered in dust. "Roar!" The youth roared. His power was suddenly unleashed and exploded in the air. The grass and trees nearby were completely destroyed by his power. Soon, the youth fell backward and hit the ground loudly and helplessly. Feng Ruching's face changed and turned pale at that moment. Her eyes were filled with deep fear. She rushed toward the youth who lay on the ground unconscious. Her hand was trembling terribly, and she hugged the young beggar tightly. She got up and went out of the manor. There were two masters from the palace hidden in the dark corner. They looked at each other in astonishment. Did the princess fall in love with the youth? Would she try to sleep with him when he is out cold? The first secret guard kept quiet for a moment and asked, "Do we need to report to His Majesty?" "Report to His Majesty? How to report? Just say that the princess picked up a youth as her gigolo?" But if they did not report to His Majesty when they knew of the truth, His Majesty would surely make them pay for it when His Majesty learned about it later. The second guard hinted at the first guard and said, "You go and continue protecting the princess. They'll go and report to His Majesty." All right. Feng Ruching had always been called the most obese person in Lu Yun Kingdom. The public had a very deep impression on her, even when she seldom left the palace in the first place. Thus, The whole Lu Yun kingdom was in great shock when they found out that Feng Ruching brought a youth back to the princess manor, especially when that youth was still unconscious. They gossiped about it then. They thought that Feng Ruching had fallen for the youth and had given an order to knock him unconscious before bringing him back to the princess manor. Therefore, her bad reputation was made even worse because of this incident. In the princess manor, Lu Li and Qing Ling were stunned as they watched Feng Ruching bring a youth back to her room. They were so shocked that none of them uttered a word and just watched with dull eyes. The princess brought a man back? And they went straight into her room? Did she not want to sleep with the state preceptor before this? Was the state preceptor too difficult to be conquered that the princess knocked down some random man and brought him back out of anger? No, I need to go and stop the princess. Qing Ling almost burst into tears. They could forget about when the princess fell for Lu Yuqin before. But now, the princess had brought some random man home, and did he even deserve the princess? She did not hope that the princess would give herself up in a rush. Lu Li quickly held Qing Ling back by holding her sleeve when she saw that Qing Ling was about to break into the princess' room. The princess is no longer her old self anymore. I believe that she has changed. Let's wait and see. If we do hear the man crying for help, we will go and stop the princess. The wind blew softly. The bedsheet ruffled slightly. Feng Ruching stared at the youth who was lying on the bed. She could not help but reach out to touch the youth's face gently. It resembled him so much. So much. His facial features, his eyebrows, all resembled Cheer so much. Cheer, is that you? Suddenly, the youth who was lying on the bed opened his eyes. His eyes were so clear that she never saw them before. Feng Ruching recovered her composure and closed her eyes slightly. He was not Cheer. Even if his facial features resembled Cheer, she could see from his eyes that he was not her younger brother, Feng Jianche. Who are you? The youth gazed at Feng Ruching and asked in his clear and loud voice. Feng Ruching's eyes narrowed and said, Feng Ruching. Her gaze was locked onto the youth's face. But she was disappointed to find out that the youth did not show any change in his emotion after hearing this name. His eyes were still so clear and honest. Chapter 67. Her transformation 3. The youth bit his lips gently and asked, Then where is this place? Why am I here? Feng Ruching glanced at the youth and explained, This is my manor. I passed by and brought you back here. If I am not wrong, your body has changed. If you continue your training forcefully, you will be possessed by the devil eventually. Feng Ruching smiled and said, If you want to stay in my manor, I can help you. She still could not help herself. She wanted to keep the youth here. Cheer had always been her only family in Huaxia. As his elder sister, she had let him take care of her for so many years. Now that she had come here, she might never be able to meet him again for the rest of her life. Thus, she wanted to keep him here selfishly just for the sake of looking at this familiar face. It was like Cheer was right by her side. But she would not force him if he was reluctant. The youth was stunned. He gazed at Feng Ruching and asked her, Aren't you afraid? Nobody dared to get near him after he had left his family. Everyone was afraid of him, especially after they had learned about his body condition. They were afraid that they would be affected. Why did this woman wanted to let him stay? I'm not afraid of you. I can help you too. Feng Ruching slowly approached the youth. You can see very well that my manor is always short-handed. You can stay and help me protect the manor, and I can help you solve the problems that plague your body. She had received a telepathic message from Fuchen earlier that the problem that plagued the youth's body could be solved. This was both beneficial and harmful to the youth. Feng Ruching only realized now that she had always been under the supervision of those two things. Feng Ruching saw that the youth did not reply, and she continued walking toward him. Her whole body was emitting a soft spiritual force. This spiritual force was weak, and this proved that the young girl's strength was not strong. But he was aware that his body was healing after feeling the gentleness of the spiritual force. He had never felt so calm and relaxed in so many years. The youth's eyes were filled with doubt. Many years ago, a wanderer told him that he was destined to meet someone who could help him if he went in the direction of east. Therefore, he came to Lu Yun Kingdom. That person who could help him, was it her? Fine, he'll stay. He got nothing now but his life. What could go wrong if he tried? If he could not solve his Bodis problem, he would not be able to take revenge in the future. Feng Ruching smiled in satisfaction, then turned and pushed open the door of the room. But two people who were sneaking around at the door nearly fell into the room. Luckily, they could steadily come to their feet. They just stood there and looked at Feng Ruching in fear. Feng Ruching's face darkened and asked, "What are you doing here?" Qing Ling laughed sheepishly. "Luli and I are just waiting for your order, princess. Then, both of you go and prepare bathwater for him to clean up. He'll stay in the princess manor from now on." Qing Ling and Luli were stunned. He would be staying in the princess manor? In the princess manor? Princess, have you forgotten your ambition of sleeping with the state preceptor? You cannot give up. Chapter 68. A youth named Qin Chen I. Feng Ruching's face darkened. She glared at Qing Ling. "Qing Ling, you're overthinking. Who said I've given up sleeping with the state preceptor? Sleeping with the state preceptor is my lifelong wish. They'll never give it up." Qing Ling bit her lip and stopped talking. The princess had randomly brought back an unfamiliar youth, and she could not help but overthink. After leaving this message behind, Feng Ruching let the two palace maids take care of the youth and left. The spirit herbs in the mountain were taken care of by the spirit beast, but it did not mean that the snow wolf would not steal and eat them. So, Feng Ruching would go and stroll around the mountain, sometimes lest the other spirit beasts were unable to suppress the grumpy snow wolf. Luckily, the snow wolf was considered obedient, and it did not destroy the spirit herbs. It might understand that there would be a bowl of wolf broth in the princess manor the next day if it laid its hands on the spirit herbs without permission. On the next day in the morning, the sunlight was so bright that lit up the land beneath it. As Feng Ruching opened the door of her room, the bright sunlight flooded in from above and upon her plump body. Suddenly, something caught her eyes as she turned to the youth who was under the willow tree. The youth was dressed in a white shirt. His face was handsome and his skin was fair. His fairness was cleaner than a piece of white paper. It seemed that he was never affected by any impurities. He looked so innocent that nobody dared to destroy it. Looking at how Feng Ruching gazed upon him, the youth's face expressed a sense of awkwardness. He seemed to not like this kind of attention. "Are you awake?" His voice was just like his appearance, beautiful and clean. It made his voice unforgettable after hearing it. "Yeah," Feng Ruching answered softly. After washing up, the youth looked even more like Cheer. But she understood that this youth would never be him. "Is there anything you would like me to do?" The youth fixed his clear eyes upon Feng Ruching. "I don't want to stay here for free. What are you able to do?" "I can't do anything." The youth's voice was very confident. Feng Ruching was stunned. "You can't do anything? Then, why did you ask if you didn't know anything?" She kept quiet for a while and said, "Then, you follow me everywhere I go and protect me. Can you do that?" Although there was some problem with the youth's body which rendered him unable to train for now, Feng Ruching could still feel that this youth's power was not low. It so happened that there was a lack of imperial guards whom she could bring out of the princess manor. For Luli and Qing Ling, they might even need her protection. "All right." The youth bit his lip. His voice was clear and precise. "Oh, that's right. What's your name?" Feng Ruching raised her eyebrows and asked. The youth looked at Feng Ruching and replied, "Qin Chen. My name is Qin Chen." The surname of Qin was very common, and Feng Ruching could not guess his identity from his name. However, Feng Ruching stroked her chin gently, smiled, and sized Qin Chen up. "Your appearance is so much better after you have cleaned up. Don't ever make yourself look like a beggar anymore in the future. You're not handicapped, and why did you dress up like that?" The youth's face froze, then he lowered his head. "I still like myself better that way." Although there was a scar on his face, there were still a lot of men and women who would like to forcibly possess him after he had left his family. So, he became like that after a while just to protect himself. "But I like you better now that you're clean and tidy." Feng Ruching stroked her chin gently and smiled a little. Chapter 69. A youth named Qin Chen too. Those bright eyes were like rays of light, unknowingly shining into the youth's heart. "If you like it." The youth's innocent eyes fell on Feng Ruching again. "Then, it'll be like this from now on." Feng Ruching was stunned. There was a flash of doubt in her eyes. It seemed that she had returned to her previous life where there were only Cheer and herself, relying solely on each other. In fact, Cheer had this innocent smile but had forced himself into being a cruel and powerful businessman just for her sake. But he would still be like a child around her. He said, "I can be whoever you want me to be." Moreover, Cheer had built that nursing home just for her. But she still left him behind. How could he survive in a world without her? How lonely would he be? Feng Ruching lowered her eyes and smiled. "Chainer, my imperial mother did not leave me with any siblings. In fact, I'm also lonely. After meeting you, I feel that maybe we were siblings in our previous lives." From now on, Feng Ruching's voice broke. She raised her hand and patted Qin Chen's shoulders. "You'll be my younger brother, the younger brother of Feng Ruching. If you have nowhere else to go, my Princess Manor will always be your home." There was a sudden flutter in Qin Chen's heart. Home? This word. How long since he last heard of this word? The people whom he had met all these years always had bad intentions toward him. Only she made him feel warm. Qin Chen lowered his eyes. He did not understand why this girl treated him so well given that they had just met the day before. Was there any hidden plot? Qin Chen laughed at himself when he thought of this. How could he be the target of anybody given what he had now? Maybe they were indeed siblings in their previous lives, and she just wanted to treat him well. "Do you know how to cook?" Feng Ruching rubbed her hungry stomach. She was hungry now even if it was still early in the morning. Qin Shan nodded his head slightly. "I know how to cook just a bit. It may not suit your tastes." "It's okay. Just go and make some light breakfast." "Okay." Qin Shun replied obediently. He turned and walked toward the kitchen. Feng Ruching was already there waiting for Qin Shan in the kitchen. Soon, a youth in white appeared from the door where the sunlight flooded in. He was holding a bowl of hot porridge in his hands, and there was even an aroma of sweet olives. Feng Ruching froze at this familiar scent. She kept her hands tightly by her side as she breathed hard. She recovered her composure slowly only when the sweet olive porridge was placed in front of her. She took up a small mouthful of the porridge, tasting it. "Chinair, have you heard of Huaxia before?" Feng Ruching raised her head and looked at Qin Shan directly. There was an uncertainty in Qin Chen's eyes. "Huaxia? Is that a sect?" Feng Ruching lowered her head in a somewhat disappointed manner. Maybe it was only a coincidence. There was once when she was hungry when they were young. Cheer stole a handful of rice and wanted to cook porridge for her, but he was afraid that it was too light a meal. It was the season when sweet olives were in bloom. So, he picked some sweet olives and cooked it together with the porridge. Later, when she was in the nursing home, Cheer still cooked her some sweet olive porridge every day even though he was busy. But he was not Cheer. This was only a coincidence. "Never mind." Feng Ruching shook her head and smiled gently. "From now on, you can cook me a bowl of sweet olive porridge every day. Is that okay?" Qin Chen nodded. "All right." Chapter 70. Lu Yuqin, who always hangs around the spirit herb soup, which was used for slimming purposes, could not be consumed every day. There should be an interval of 5 days before it could be consumed for the second time. Even so, her body shape had become slimmer nevertheless. However, the previous owner was too obese so much so that it was impossible for her to slim down to a normal body size within a day or two. Feng Ruching also ran several rounds around Southern Street every day just for show for fear that her weight loss would appear too sudden and quick. It had astonished the people who saw her. Surprisingly, the most obese person in Lu Yun Kingdom had started to slim down. Enemies were always bound to meet someday. Today, Feng Ruching met Lu Yuqin and Tan Shuang who were holding hands when she had just finished her morning run. Lu Yuqin was prohibited to leave the Lu family's manor these few days that he did not know anything about what had happened in the Southern Street. He had just gotten permission to leave that day. So, he was stunned first before he felt disgusted when he saw Feng Ruching running toward him. "Princess, you promised to divorce me, and I really thought that you planned to give me freedom. But I did not know that you are still the same person who would do anything just to meet me." In the past, Feng Ruching had never left her home. She had always created some chance meetings with him whenever she left the palace. This time was no different too. Tan Shuang stopped walking and subconsciously held Lu Yuqin's hand tightly. Her eyes were filled with fear. Lu Yuqin saw how frightened Tan Shuangshuang was, and he felt angrier than ever. It seemed that Feng Ruqing had damaged her heart and soul deeply. But Feng Ruqing just ran past Lu Yuqin. She did not slow down. She also did not look at Lu Yuqin. It was as if he was just an insignificant stranger. Lu Yuqin's handsome face stiffened. He turned his head slightly, anger flaring in his eyes. Ching, a youth who was paler than the snow, was standing not far away. He was clean like the first snow. He was still beautiful even though there was a scar on his face. He smiled slightly at the girl who was running toward him. His smile was so sincere that it could not be slighted. Chainer, let's go home. Feng Ruqing smiled. Time was drawing near. Now that the spirit wine would be completed, she finally had a gift to present to the general's manor. Princess. Lu Yuqin was angrier than ever. In the past, Feng Ruqing would look at him. But now, she ignored him for some youth? Feng Ruqing stopped running, turned and looked at Lu Yuqin condescendingly. Lu Yuqin, you are so shameless. What did you say? What did I say? Don't you understand? Feng Ruqing sneered at him. You come here purposely just to meet me by chance. What? Can't you reconcile with the fact that I've divorced you? Or you can't bear to part with me? But am born with a free soul that I love freedom so much. You can just give it up and forget about me. You, Lu Yuqin almost lost control that he would have exploded there, and then if it was not for Feng Ruqing's status. How dare Feng Ruqing reply him with exactly what he had just told her? He? Creating chance meetings with Feng Ruqing? This was indeed a joke. Only she would do this kind of thing. They were surrounded by some people at that time. They did not dare to come nearer because they were afraid that they would offend the villain princess. Chapter 71. Lu Yuqin, who always hangs around Feng Ruqing, had gone for morning runs these few days. All the other people saw that clearly. So, it seemed that Lu Yuqin was the one who had bothered her. Princess. Lu Yuqin suppressed his anger again and sneered at her. We have just parted for a few days, and now you have found yourself a new lover? Does His Majesty know about it? You have clearly brought shame to our Lu Yun kingdom. Feng Ruqing smiled and said, First, we have not parted. I was the one who has divorced you. Second, what have you got to do with my business now that we have divorced? Lu Yuqin, don't tell me you still have feelings for me, and now you want to woo me again? Nonsense. Lu Yuqin was worried that Tan Shuangshuang would misunderstand. He quickly stopped her from speaking. I, Lu Yuqin, have never liked you. Not in the past, not now, not ever. Lu Yuqin had never dared to speak like this to Feng Ruqing. But now he was so angry that his eyes were filled with fury as he glared at her. That's just fine. Feng Ruqing yawned sleepily. I'm worried that you have fallen for me, and now you want to pursue me again. We can just act like strangers now that we no longer like each other. You don't have to call after me the next time we meet again. Fallen for her? Lu Yuqin scanned Feng Ruqing's appearance and sneered at her. Princess, you've thought too much. I have a perfect girl like Shuanger beside me. Who would fall for you? She was so ugly and plump. How could she think that he had fallen for her? What a joke. Qingshan frowned and said, She is not as beautiful as Qingqing won this time. Feng Ruqing's face darkened. Was Chainer praising her or criticizing her? Are you blind? Lu Yuqin laughed at Qingshan. Qingshan disregarded Feng Ruqing's smile. He put on a poker face and said, Qingqing is just bigger than regular people. But she is the most beautiful girl I have ever met. This time, everybody on the street glanced sympathetically at Qingshan. They sympathized with him for being blind at such a young age. How on earth was Feng Ruqing beautiful? They were disgusted with her plump body. Feng Ruqing's face darkened even more. But Chainer was her family, and she did not want to embarrass him. So, she smiled slightly and said, Chainer, I know that I'm beautiful. You don't have to say it out loud. Lu Yuqin stared in wonder at Feng Ruqing. Did she really think that she was beautiful? Where did her confidence come from? Was it just because she was a princess? All right. Qingshan recovered and gazed at Feng Ruqing. You commoners will never see her beauty. It's enough that I know she's beautiful. Feng Ruqing was left speechless. Why did she think that Chainer was criticizing her? But her words were out and she could not take them back. Chainer, Let's go home. We don't have to deal with these people. Okay. Qin Shun was obedient to Feng Ruqing. He turned and looked at Lu Yuqin before he left. That look frightened Lu Yuqin so much that he balled his fists tightly just to suppress his anxiety. Yuqin. Tan Shuangshuang tugged at Lu Yuqin's arm nervously. Her eyes were watery, and she looked so timid. Lu Yuqin composed himself and relaxed just a bit. He said gently, Shuangshuang, you don't have to listen to his nonsense. You're the most beautiful girl in Lu Yun Kingdom. Everybody knows that. He's just blind. Chapter 72. Lu Yuqin, who always hangs around 3 Yuqin. Would it be a nuisance to the Chancellor's manor if His Majesty got to know about your feud with the princess? His Majesty was overly protective of the princess. There might be a conflict if His Majesty learned about it. Lu Yuqin frowned and said, I would willingly accept the punishment if His Majesty punishes me. I don't want you to be treated unfairly. Yuqin, you treat me so well. Tin Shuangshuang's eyes welled up with tears and were filled with emotions. The love you show me in this life is the best thing that could ever happen to me. But I don't want you to offend the princess and affect the Chancellor's manor. Lu Yuqin's heart softened. Why do you always put others before yourself? Tan Shuangshuang smiled and lowered her eyes. It's because you're the one I love the most in this life. Besides, the princess was only acting tough just now. She still loves you deep down in her heart. Can't you see that? I don't want the man that I love to go and hurt other women. Aren't you angry at her for flogging you before? I'm angry. Tan Shuangshuang smiled sadly and continued. But what could I do? Better let bygones be bygones. I believe that she will sincerely wish us well. Lu Yuqin kept quiet. He looked in the direction where Feng Ruqing disappeared from his sight. Was it his illusion? He thought that Feng Ruqing had changed. She was different now. It seemed that she was no longer infatuated with him now. In the cellar, Feng Ruqing sneaked into the cellar after dismissing all the people. She opened the wine jar slowly after picking it up. Suddenly, a pleasant smell crept into the room and made her feel very energetic. This spirit's wine was good for strengthening the body and healing illnesses. This was just the right medicine for Master Nalan. I'll give this spirit herbs to my grandfather. Next time, I'll give one to my father too. The emperor had been working laboriously in the past few years. It would be beneficial for His Majesty to have either the spirit wine or divine spirit fruit. She no longer hesitated when she thought of this. She brought the wine jar out of the cellar. The general's manor was no longer prosperous and lively after the death of Empress Nalan. It was now serene and quiet. It was not because the general was no longer favored by the emperor. The general's manor was still favored by the emperor. But they chose to not be in contact with others because they hated to do so. Now, Feng Ruqing hugged the wine jar close to her chest and stood outside the general's manor. She took a deep breath and walked up the stairs slowly. The imperial guards who were guarding the entrance at the general's manor saw Feng Ruqing from afar. They were soon nervous, their eyes filled with fear. Why did this villain come again? But Feng Ruqing did not walk into the general's manor right away. She stood at the entrance and smiled at the 2 imperial guards. Could you go and inform my grandfather that I've come to visit him? The 2 imperial guards looked at each other blankly. Inform? Did they hear it wrongly? On top of that, this villain princess was smiling at them now. Was the sun rising up from the west now? All right. One of the imperial guards composed himself and replied quickly, Princess, please wait here for a while. I'll go and inform the general and Master Nalan now. Then, he glanced at his companion next to him and turned to walk into the manor quickly. Chapter 73. The first visit to the old General Ai in the general's manor. Nalan Zhangqian was carefully reading a book in his hand in the study room. Suddenly, there was a knock at the door. Come in, he frowned slightly and replied in a deep voice. The imperial guard pushed the door open and walked inside. He was clearly anxious. He tried but failed to suppress the tremor in his voice as he said to Nalan Zhangqian, General, the princess. She is here. The book in Nalan Zhangqian's hand fell onto the table with a thud. He clenched his fists tightly and closed his eyes. He was having trouble breathing. After a short while, he opened his eyes and he smiled sardonically. Why did she come again? He could forgive what Feng Ruching had done to General Manor. He could even forgive how she had brought shame to Lu Yun Kingdom. But he could not forgive her for making him sick on the day when he was preparing to go into war. He could not even forgive her for giving up all his sister's efforts to noble consort Rome. The Imperial Guard looked at Nailan Zhangqian carefully. She said, "She wanted to pay a visit to the old general." Nailan Zhangqian scoffed and said, "Does she think that the damage she had done to my father was not enough? Does she really want to make him angry again? You go and tell Feng Ruching that my father is not in the manor." His heart was gentle once. He had forgiven her for so many times that even when she had burnt down General Manor, he could still forgive her. He pitied her for she had no mother since she was born. He wanted to give her more love and care. But she had hurt him so much now that his heart had hardened when it came to her. He would never forgive her. "Yes, General." The Imperial Guard sighed. If the princess was allowed to go near the old general, she might infuriate the old general again. The Imperial Guard turned to walk out of the study room and closed the door behind him. He could see Feng Ruching, who was waiting at the entrance from afar. Suddenly, a shadow appeared from the side as he was about to convey to her the general's message. The shadow was running toward Feng Ruching. "Lady." The two Imperial Guards were frightened to death. Feng Ruching had always bullied Nailan Dyer for the past few years. Now that Feng Ruching had appeared in front of Nailan Dyer, they did not know what kind of damage would be done to her again. However, they were soon relieved when they saw a young man following closely behind Dyer. Feng Ruching could not bully Dyer now that their young master was accompanying Dyer. "Cousin." Nailan Dyer had missed Feng Ruching so much these past few days, but Feng Ruching had not come to visit her. Her eagerness had turned into disappointment. Now, Dyer could not help but rush out to meet Feng Ruching since she was just right in front of her. Dyer threw herself into Feng Ruching's arms. Feng Ruching's heart softened while hugging her soft and gentle cousin. Feng Ruching looked upon Dyer with tender eyes. Nailan Jing was stunned. His eyes did not leave that plump body which belonged to Feng Ruching even for a while. Doubt filled his eyes momentarily. Feng Ruching could be this gentle too. "Cousin, you did not come to meet me." Dyer clearly felt sad. "Cousin, you promised." Feng Ruching smiled and stroked Dyer's head. "I promised that I'll come and visit you. I certainly will fulfill that promise. I was just too busy these past few days. Now, I've come. Haven't I?"
"Yes."
Dyer seemed so obedient, and her smile was so sweet. Dyer likes cousin now. Chapter 74. The first visit to the old general too, the cousin no longer bullied her. It was a pleasant feeling. "Dyer, where's your grandpa?" Feng Ruching straightened her body, smiled and asked. That Imperial Guard was almost frightened to death at that moment. He wanted to stop Nailan Dyer from speaking, but Dyer was fast even though she had a mental disability. She replied swiftly, "Grandpa's tending to the grass in the backyard." The Imperial Guard soon paled at this. He remembered what the general had said, and his legs shook in fear. "Young master." The Imperial Guard looked at Nailan Jing anxiously. Nailan Jing kept quiet for a moment before he replied, "It's all right. They'll guard her behavior. They'll dismiss her from General Manor regardless of her status if she bullies Dyer again. It might be because of how she had argued with Feng Ruchuang at the Beast Court. Or it might be because of the tenderness he saw in Feng Ruching's eyes that made him want to trust her again." Nailan Jing laughed at himself when he thought of this. How much damage would you allow her to do to you before you hate her for the rest of your life? Nailan Dyer grabbed onto Feng Ruching's hand and walked toward the backyard. The Imperial Guard did not hesitate to rush to the study room when he saw what happened. He had to inform the general before Feng Ruching made any fuss in the general's manor. In the backyard, there was an old man whose hair was white. He was bent forward and was taking extra care of the herbs in the backyard. He was not as strong as he was before. He had aged faster than the others. Feng Ruching felt a tinge of sadness when she saw his white hair from afar. The old general was still strong and tough a few years back in her past memory. Now, his back was hunched and his hair had turned white. He could only tend to the herbs at home and could no longer serve Lu Yun Kingdom. For a person like him who had sacrificed his whole life for Lu Yun Kingdom, this kind of life seemed pathetic. "Jinger, You're here. Master Nayland smiled and looked up. Suddenly, a familiar figure appeared in front of him. Master Nayland's hands shook as the watering can he was holding fell to the ground. The dirt splashed onto his body, but he did not seem to care. He still looked at Feng Ruching in shock. Master Nayland's frightened eyes made Feng Ruching feel worse than ever. No grandfather in this world would be angry at his grandchildren for real. He was just sad. He was sad that his children did not listen to him when they grew up. He wanted his children to stay by him, but he was worried that she would break his heart again. Chinga, you're here too? Master Nayland composed himself, smiled and said, This place is so messy. Why don't we go somewhere else? He looked worriedly at the herbs in the backyard. Then, he sighed. These herbs were his efforts. He had used a few months to gather them from all around the country. He did not want them to be destroyed. In fact, everybody was aware of how Feng Ruching was before. Feng Ruching did not say anything in return. She casually put the wine jar in Nayland Jing's hands. Nayland Jing was stunned, but he took the wine jar anyway. By the time he had recovered from his stupor, Feng Ruching had walked toward Master Nayland. She then picked up the watering can. Everybody was nervous when they saw Feng Ruching going near the herbs. Nayland Jing was on the verge of stopping her when Feng Ruching started casually watering the herbs. Chapter 75. The first visit to the old General 3, Grandpa. There are 2 types of spirit herbs here among your herbs. There's a grade 2 spirit herb, 7-star grass, and a grade 3 spirit herb, peace bloom. Feng Ruching strongly felt a tension in the atmosphere when she mentioned the grade 3 spirit herbs. It was clear that a hungry beast had its eyes on the grade 3 spirit herbs. Feng Ruching's face darkened. These spirit herbs belonged to her grandfather. Her grandfather had clearly put a lot of effort into obtaining the spirit herbs. She would never let that hungry beast get hold of the spirit herbs. Master Nayland looked at Feng Ruching in surprise. You can recognize spirit herbs? Grandpa, can you tell me how did you obtain these spirit herbs? Feng Ruching smiled and asked. Grade 3 spirits herbs were very special. One would need to put in a lot of effort to obtain them in the first place, even if one had a lot of money. Master Nayland sighed and replied, These 2 spirit herbs had gone bad, so I got them at a low price. I just wanted to try and see if I could make them live. Spirit herbs were different from normal herbs. The normal herbs could be stored as dried medicine, but spirit herbs were only effective when they were fresh. However, some spirit herbs were not available in all seasons, and therefore storing them was a difficult task. These 2 spirit herbs were clearly rotting, and they were no longer fresh. But they would soon die if her grandfather continued using the traditional way to water them. Feng Ruching lowered her eyes and asked Fu Chen through telepathy, Fu Chen, do you have any way to save these 2 spirit herbs? Soon, Fu Chen's voice replied, You can plant spirit herbs. So, for sure you can save them. Do you still need to ask me such a simple question? Feng Ruching's face darkened a little more. Although they're my family, I still cannot let them know about my ability to plant spirit herbs before I'm mature enough in doing so. Do you have any other ways? Fu Chen kept quiet for a while before saying, There's no other way. Why don't you steal these 2 spirit herbs back for Qing Han and I to eat, rather than leaving them here to go to waste? He was hungry for so long that he could not wait to eat those spirit herbs. You cannot have these spirit herbs. Feng Ruching's eyes narrowed. I'll tell you what. If you don't tell me the way, I'll disown you. Fu Chen was shocked. He kept quiet for a long time before he reluctantly told her of the way. You can soak a 100-year-old ginseng in water. Then, you can use it to water the spirit herbs. These are spirit herbs, and they cannot be saved with normal medicine. At least you can try with the 100-year ginseng. A 100-year-old ginseng is expensive, but it is not a spirit herb. My grandpa will surely be able to obtain it with his influence and power. Feng Ruching now could smile with satisfaction. Then, Fu Chen's voice was heard again in a careful whisper. You won't disown me anymore now that I've told you the way, right? Where else could Fu Chen find another guardian to tend to his life if he lost her? Unfortunately, Fu Chen had intended to lie to get the peace bloom, but now all efforts had gone to waste. You will always be my good son if you listen to me obediently. This son came naturally without any effort. He was gullible and innocent. She would be insane if she were to disown him. Feng Ruching smiled and looked at her grandfather. Grandpa, I have heard of a way before. If you soak a 100-year-old ginseng in the water, you can use it to water the spirit herbs. Then, the spirit herbs could live with the spirit from the 100-year-old ginseng. Master Nalen was stunned. He kept quiet. Feng Ruching continuously persuaded them. The spirit herbs are almost dead. You could try and see if this method could save them. Chapter 76. The astonishing effect of spirit wine. Master Nalen was silent. In fact, the spirit herbs would die if he did not do anything to save it. We have a 100-year-old ginseng in the Nalen family. Jinger, do what Jinger has said. Nalen Jing slightly nodded and looked at Feng Ruching in confusion. He returned her wine jar and turned around to walk toward the storeroom. Nalen Zhangqian rushed home at lightning speed. His forehead was covered in sweat and his complexion was pale. He could see an old and a young person standing in front of Feng Ruching. His facial expression shifted. His eyes were filled with anxiety. But who knew Nalen Dyer was not as afraid of Feng Ruching as she was before. Her small body leaned toward Feng Ruching and her face glowed with an innocent smile. Even Master Nalen was calm and at peace. He was not furious. Even so, Nalen Zhangqian did not lower his guard with Feng Ruching. He took big strides toward Feng Ruching, stopped in front of her, greeted her, and kneeled on one knee. Your Highness. Feng Ruching was shocked. She quickly helped Nalen Zhangqian up. She smiled and said, Uncle, you don't have to be like this. We are a family. You don't have to greet me by kneeling. She could accept all the respect given by the other people, but not the ones given by the elders in her family. Nalen Zhangqian stood up, but his handsome face was still solemn. Princess, my father is not feeling well today. He cannot receive any guests. Please leave and I will bring my father to visit you at the Princess Manor when I am free in the future. Zhangqian. Master Nalen frowned at that. His face sunk. Jinger seldom comes to our manor. As her uncle, you not only did not order tea for her, now you want to dismiss her. Nalen Zhangqian was shocked. He did not think that his father would be partial toward Feng Ruching. He suppressed his emotion and replied, Dad, have you forgotten how she had provoked you and bullied Dyer? I'm just worried about you. Master Nalen smiled and said, But she's still Yenner's daughter. She was Yenner's daughter no matter what. How could he be so strict toward her? If Feng Ruching came and irritated him again this time, he would have made her leave without being asked by Nalen Zhangqian. But Feng Ruching did not provoke him, and she even treated Dyer gently. He still could not be cruel toward her. I don't want cousin to leave. Nalen Dyer pulled at Feng Ruching's sleeve tightly, bit her lip, and looked at Nalen Zhangqian. Nalen Zhangqian was astonished. What had happened? Dyer was so afraid of Feng Ruching before, and Master Nalen had sworn to never meet Feng Ruching again. But why did they not want Feng Ruching to leave now? Dyer. Nalen Zhangqian was nervous now. These people were quick to forgive and forget. Now that Feng Ruching had treated them in a slightly better way, they had soon forgotten how nastily she had treated them before. He had also given her many opportunities before, but she had never changed. Dyer likes cousin. Nalen Dyer grabbed at her tightly, as if she was afraid that Nalen Zhangqian would make her leave. Her cousin seldom came to meet her. She did not want her to leave now that she had came. Nalen Zhangqian was extremely nervous now. He wanted to say something but stopped short when he saw Nalen Jing walking in slowly with a teapot in his hands. Chapter 77. The astonishing effect of spirit wine. 2. My son is good. He knows that I'm angry now, and he brings me a cup of tea. Nalen Zhangqian was indeed angry, and he needed a cup of tea. Nalen Jing was quick to hide the teapot behind his back when he realized that Nalen Zhangqian was extending his arm to take the tea. He frowned and asked his father, Dad, what are you doing? Nalen Zhangqian froze and looked at his son. His extended arm stopped midair. He did not know whether to remain like that or to pull his arm back. He felt awkward. Nalen Zhangqian cleared his throat before he replied, Jinger, your grandfather can only take tribute tea, but there is no more tribute tea in our manor. He couldn't care less about this kind of tea. Just give me that to me. This kid embarrassed him in front of everyone. Jinger surely knew that his grandfather took only tribute tea. For whom was the tea for if it was not for him? Was it for Feng Ruqing or Dyer? Nailan Jing looked at his father warily. This is not tea. Not tea? Then what is this? Nailan Zhangqian was stunned. What could a teapot hold besides tea? 100-year-old ginseng water. 100-year-old ginseng water? 100-year-old ginseng water. Nailan Zhangqian's face darkened. He fixed his eyes on the teapot in Nailan Jing's hand. At that very moment, the atmosphere in the backyard was so quiet. Everyone could hear Nailan Zhangqian's heavy breathing. Is it the 100-year-old ginseng which I have obtained by relentlessly deceiving the second prince of Yiluo Kingdom? A 100-year-old ginseng was a very rare and special medicine in this country where spirit herbs were rare. Although a 100-year-old ginseng was a regular herb and would never be a spirit herb, it was not easy for the ginseng to grow either since it would take 100 years. Nailan Jing nodded and replied, yes, it is that ginseng you talked about. Wham! Nailan Zhangqian was outrageous as he grabbed Nailan Jing's collar and punched him hard. Feng Ruqing was stunned. She was still hesitating on whether to save or let him be. A walking stick was seen hitting Nailan Zhangqian hard on his head when Feng Ruqing was still trying to work out a solution. Nailan Zhangqian's fist stopped midair. Nailan Jing took a step back to avoid Nailan Zhangqian's punch. Nailan Zhangqian, I will disown you as my son if you dare to lay a finger on Nailan Jing today. The anger in Master's Nailan voice made Nailan Zhangqian freeze there and then. Nailan Zhangqian stroked the back of his head and turned to plead with Master Nailan with his teary eyes. This son of mine took my ginseng and soaked it in water. Am I not right to punish him for wasting that precious ginseng? Master Nailan was furious now. He retorted, it's my idea. It has nothing to do with Jinger. Nailan Zhangqian did not dare to say anything anymore. Nailan Zhangqian missed the time when Old Master Nailan was still around. Old Master Nailan would always defend Nailan Zhangqian whenever Master Nailan wanted to hit him. This? Feng Ruqing stepped forward weakly. Uncle, don't be angry with Jinger. It was I who asked him to do so. Although it was Feng Ruqing who told Master Nailan about the method in the first place, just to help Master Nailan, Feng Ruqing did not want Nailan Jing to endure all the accusations. If not, she would feel guilty. Princess. Nailan Zhangqian was shocked and furious. He gritted his teeth. What have I done wrong to deserve this? Why do you always have to hurt me? He just knew. Nothing good ever came out of Feng Ruqing's appearance in the general's manner. Chapter 78. The astonishing effect of spirit wine 3. Why did Jinger and Master Nailan trust her so much? They were ready to give the 100-year-old ginseng up now. He had put in a few days and nights to deceive the second prince of Yiluo Kingdom to gain the ginseng. Now, they wanted to give it up? Jinger, you don't have to bother about your father. Just go on and use that water to water the spirit herbs. Master Nailan gave a signal to Jinger. Nailan Zhangqian's eyes nearly popped out from their sockets. They had given up his ginseng, just to water the spirit herbs? Although the dying herbs were spirit herbs, he knew that human force could not recover spirit herbs. It was like a waste. Master Nailan was always so full of wisdom. Why was he so silly now? Nailan Zhangqian's ginseng had gone to waste now. All right. Nailan Jing listened to Master Nailan's order obediently by disregarding Nailan Zhangqian's sad eyes. Jinger walked toward the spirit herbs slowly and poured the ginseng water onto the spirit herbs. Ginseng water was good and easily absorbable. It was soon absorbed by the spirit herbs. There was a wilting petal on the peace bloom, but the petal rose slowly when the ginseng water was poured onto it. Nailan Zhangqian rubbed at his eyes in disbelief. In fact, the peace bloom, which was on the verge of death, was soon coming back to life again. This opportunity at recovering was not high, but it was clearly a good step. This. Nailan Zhangqian pointed at the peace bloom, unable to utter the words. Master Nailan was all excited. His hand stroked the peace bloom gently, and his heart fluttered. It lived. It really lived. Grandpa, just keep on watering the peace bloom with the remaining ginseng water every day from now on until the peace bloom is fully recovered. Feng Ruqing sighed in relief. In fact, she doubted the effectiveness of the method given by Fu Chan before. Her uncle would surely kill her if it failed. Thankfully, it worked. All is right. There was a long-lost smile on Master's Nailin face. Master Nailin looked at Nailin Zhangqian triumphantly. Kid, now you see that? A 100-year-old ginseng has saved a grade 3 spirit herb. You still think that the ginseng was wasted? Nailin Zhangqian quickly shook his head and said, No, it's not a waste. This is indeed a big gain. You are so wise. Do you still want to hit Jinger? No, I'll not hit him again. How about Chinger? Master Nailin asked with a snort. Nailin Zhangqian's lips twisted into a scowl. Who knew Feng Ruqing was really helping General Manor? He was wronged by Feng Ruqing so much before that he could not find himself believing in her again. Princess. He kept quiet for a while, then turned to Feng Ruqing. Feng Ruqing was not angry. She smiled and said, Uncle, I told you just now. You don't have to treat me differently. You can call me Chinger like my grandpa. Chinger. Nailin Zhangqian laughed bitterly. How long had he not used this endearment? He was scolded for so long a few years back when he accidentally called Feng Ruqing that. If he was the general, he might be punished by his niece at that time. How could he be so daring as to do that again? Uncle, I was insensible before. I met my mother when I fainted not long ago. She taught me a lot of things. I've come today just to apologize. Feng Ruqing handed Master Nailin the wine jar in her hands. Grandpa, this is a gift for you. I hope you'll accept it. Chapter 79. The astonishing effect of spirit wine. 4 Nailin Zhangqian spoke before Master Nailin could. My dad was not feeling well, and he has quit drinking for a few days now. Drinking would still harm one's body. They prohibited Master Nailin from drinking for the sake of his health. Zhangqian. Master Nailin looked at Nailin Zhangqian in annoyance. Chinger rarely gives me things. I can just accept it. You just don't want me to feel better, don't you? Nailin Zhangqian stopped short. Dad, I did not mean that. I was just... Then just shut up. Master Nailin was quite happy after realizing the change in Feng Ruqing. He did not care it was real or fake. He was contented as long as Feng Ruqing did not infuriate him. Moreover, it was the first time Feng Ruqing gave him a present. Feng Ruqing ignored Nailin Zhangqian and handed the wine jar to Master Nailin. Master Nailin laughed out loud. He opened the wine jar. Jinger, go and take my wine glass. I want to take a sip of the wine that Chinger has brought me. The fragrance of the wafted out of the wine jar when Master Nailin opened it. He was stunned as his eyes were momentarily filled with doubt. This wine. Why was the smell of the wine so pleasant? Moreover, he could feel spiritual qi in the wine. Chinger, where did you get this wine? Master Nailin was serious as he looked up at Feng Ruqing. A few days ago, I bought it for you from a street vendor by the roadside when I went for my morning run. I just thought that his wine smelled so good. Why? What's wrong with the wine? Her eyes were so innocent that she seemed to not know the problem with the wine. Master Nailin took a deep breath and seemed serious then. This wine is brewed from spirit herbs. Nailin Zhangqian was shocked as his face turned pale after hearing that. He could smell the special fragrance of the wine at first, but the wine was too strong that it covered the presence of the spiritual qi. He could now feel the existence of spiritual qi in the wine after hearing what Master Nailin had said. A wine brewed from spirit herbs. What a waste. Vendor. Vendor again. Nailin Zhangqian was clearly annoyed. Why can't I meet this kind of street vendor? No one doubted Feng Ruqing. They knew exactly who she was. She would never be able to brew wine. Nailin Zhangqian believed, so after what happened to Dyer. What about the vendor? Master Nailin looked at Nailin Zhangqian suspiciously. Nailin Zhangqian was more annoyed than ever. Dad, do you still remember the divine spirit fruit I gave you a few days ago? Dyer bought it at a trading store. What do you think about this vendor? The vendor sold divine spirit fruits like they are regular fruits, and now the vendor sells spirit wine like they are regular wine. But why couldn't he meet this street vendor? Nailin Dyer blinked and moved closer to Feng Ruqing. She did not understand. Why was her father and Master Nailin so shocked? Her father even ordered people to go and search for the hawker store. But all these were given to her by Feng Ruqing as snacks. Chinger, did you really buy this wine from a street vendor? Master Nailin looked at Feng Ruqing and asked her seriously. Feng Ruching nodded calmly. Yes, I bought it for you. Do you know the significance of this wine? Master Nayland took a deep breath and said, the value of this wine is more than grade 3 spirit herbs. It was still considered spirit wine, even if low-grade spirit herbs were used in brewing the jar of wine. How powerful was it to brew spirit wine from spirit herbs? It was indeed more valuable than grade 3 spirit herbs. Chapter 80. She just could not be left alone. I really? Feng Ruching was shocked. Her expression went blank. It was as if she just got to know the value of the spirit wine. Chinger, just take the spirit wine back. Master Nayland intended to give the wine jar to Feng Ruching. Master Nayland forced a smile and said, this present is too precious. I cannot take it. You just bring it back to His Majesty. Master Nayland could not take the present by disregarding his conscience. He would have gladly accepted it if it was regular wine, but now that he knew of Feng Ruching's ignorance of its value, he just could not make himself to accept it. Feng Ruching looked at the spirit wine, but she did not take it from Master Nayland. Grandpa, you can just accept this present as it is really a present I bought for you. His Majesty taught me a few days ago that I owe the General Manor a lot. His Majesty would have chosen to give you the spirit wine too if he were to know about this incident. Feng Tianyu was loyal to Empress Nayland. He loved Empress Nayland as well as her family. So, the Nayland family always received special treatment because of Empress Nayland. Feng Tianyu would not have accepted the spirit wine if he knew of this incident. Master Nayland deserved the spirit wine. Master Nayland was stunned. His eyes showed a mixture of emotions. Chinger, you've finally grown up. Good. That's really good. He had waited for this day for so long. Tears lingered in Master Nayland's eyes. He discreetly wiped them off. His hand that was holding the wine jar trembled just a tiny bit. Dad, be careful. Don't tremble. Suddenly, a strict voice came from the side during this warm and touching moment. Nayland Zhangqian looked at Master Nayland's shaky hands anxiously. He quickly put his hands underneath the wine jar. He was afraid that Master Nayland would break the wine jar. That was a very precious jar of spirit wine. He would be anguished if it was broken. Master Nayland's face froze at that remark. This son had really ruined the touching moment. He was so angry that he nearly threw the wine jar at him. But Master Nayland changed his mind after some consideration. He was unwilling to give up the spirit wine. He sneered and said, it's not for you even if I didn't break it. Nayland Zhangqian laughed out loud. Dad, you're unwell. You can't be drinking too much wine. It's also too much wine for you to finish it by yourself. I can enjoy it with you. Not quite, Master Nayland said sarcastically. This is not regular wine, but spirit wine. This wine can only strengthen my body and heal my illnesses. It'll not harm me. Stop daydreaming here. Nayland Zhangqian's facial expression changed. Master Nayland was really stingy. How could he take the whole jar of spirit wine without sharing it with him? Jinger. Master Nayland ignored Nayland Zhangqian's sadness that showed on his face. He turned and looked at Jinger, smiled, and said, you don't have to bother about your dad. Just come and enjoy the wine with me. By the way, don't tell the old people about this. If not, I won't have enough wine to drink. Nayland Zhangqian's face darkened. Master Nayland would not share it with Nayland Zhangqian, but now Nayland Jing could share it with him? Why was Master Nayland being so unfair now? Grandpa, it is getting late now. I need to return to the Princess Manor. I'll come and visit you again in a few days. Is that all right? Feng Ruching looked at the sky and thought that she should be heading back. Master Nayland was stunned. Chinger, aren't you staying for dinner? Feng Ruching smiled and said, no, it's all right. I'm quite busy these few days, so I won't be staying for dinner. I'll come next time. Is that okay? Chapter 81. She just could not be left alone too. There was still an aunt to face, even if Feng Ruching's grandfather and uncle had forgiven her. Her aunt swore never to meet her again because of Dyer. She could not stay at the general's manor for long if her aunt had not forgiven her. But she believed that her aunt's prejudice toward her would be lessened if she treated the general's family nicely. Her aunt would then be able to trust her again. Cousin. Dyer tugged at Feng Ruching's sleeves and looked at Feng Ruching with teary eyes. Will you come to meet me again? Feng Ruching patted Dyer's head. I'll come and meet you after a few days. Is that all right? All right. Dyer nodded vigorously and showed her sweet smile. Dyer will wait for cousin. Feng Ruching lowered her eyes and patted Dyer's head gently. Feng Ruching was determined now. One day, Feng Ruching would help to recover Dyer's face. Feng Ruching would also make sure that Feng Rushuang and her gang would never look down on her again. I won't detain you if you're determined to leave. You are welcome to come to our manor any time you like, Master Nalan said, sighing. Master Nalan would never be cruel toward Feng Ruching no matter how many times Feng Ruching had disappointed him. Master Nalan would rather choose to believe that Feng Ruching had changed for the better. Yes, Grandpa. Nalan Jing bit his lip and looked at Feng Ruching in confusion. Feng Ruching had really changed. It made Nalan Jing unable to understand Feng Ruching now. Feng Ruching also had changed, and she was no longer as vile as before. Dad. Feng Ruching left them under Nalan Jing's accompaniment. Looking at her, Nalan Zhangqian raised his eyes and lowered his voice. Could you tell whether Feng Ruching has really changed for the better, or she's just fooling with us again? Master Nalan laughed bitterly. For sure I'll say she's changed for the better because I'm her grandpa, and I always hope that she will improve someday. I don't want her being tricked by noble consort Rong again to the point where she no longer recognizes her family. Qinger was gentle and obedient when she was young. After meeting noble consort Rong, Feng Ruching had treated noble consort Rong like her mother. She had changed and followed suit what noble consort Rong taught her to do. She became impatient every time they wanted to advise her. From then on, she kept her distance from the general's manor, and His Majesty could do nothing about it. Dad, did you forget how she had treated you before? And the scar on Dyer's face. People make mistakes. We should be tolerant of her since we are her elders. If Qinger was hurt by someone, would you be able to stand there and just ignore it? Nalan Zhangqian was quiet. How could he ignore her? They did not go and visit Feng Ruching when she fainted the other day. But it was not because they no longer cared for her. They were afraid that they would be saddened by the sight of her. Nalan Zhangqian had always mistreated Chancellor Lu during the morning meeting. Jinger had also never been nice to Lu Yuqin whenever Jinger met Lu Yuqin. They knew very well that it was Feng Ruching's fault in marrying Lu Yuqin. But Qinger was almost killed by the Lu family. They could not bear it. Moreover, Nalan Zhangqian had personally visited the Lu family before the wedding. Nalan Zhangqian had told Chancellor Lu that Nalan Zhangqian could help the Lu family disobey His Majesty's order to marry Feng Ruching. His Majesty would never blame the general manor. They did so for Feng Ruching's sake, not Lu Yuqin. It was Chancellor Lu who had refused Nalan Zhangqian's offer. Chancellor Lu was eager to have Feng Ruching as his daughter-in-law and to sacrifice Lu Yuqin's happiness to help the Lu family gain more power and status. So, Nalan Zhangqian would never be indifferent toward Feng Ruching. He could not do it. In fact, the entire Nalan family could never do it. Chapter 82. She just could not be left alone 3, but Feng Ruching had disappointed us so many times that her behavior today made me feel insincere. Dad, I still cannot trust her completely. I'm afraid that what happened today was a trap. It might be her trick to give us something sweet before making us feel all bitter again at the end. Master Nalan could understand Nalan Zhangqian's feelings. He himself was afraid too. But Master Nalan was still willing to give Feng Ruching a chance even if the condition was such. No family member was ever angry with Feng Ruching. They were just angry that Feng Ruching could not change for the better. Zhangqian, I hope that the general manor could treat Feng Ruching nicely when she has done no harm to the general manor. We should understand that this child was as she was because she has lost her mother at a very young age, and she was tricked by noble consort Rong. But I do believe that people who are from the Nalan family are naturally kind. Dad, I understand. Nalan Zhangqian sighed. I'll not treat her badly, but I'll never forgive her for the rest of my life, no matter what you say if she does anything that disappoints me again this time. This was the last chance. There was only one chance. At the entrance of the general manor, the 2 imperial guards were left staring on blankly. They could not believe who the girl was. She was leaving the general manor with Nalan Jing. The general was in a hurry just now when he went over to where the princess was. But He had ordered the young master to escort the princess out instead of immediately dismissing the princess. Feng Ruqing. Suddenly, a youth beside Feng Ruqing spoke. She stopped walking. Feng Ruqing turned around and looked at Nalan Jing, who was standing behind her. Feng Ruqing blinked and asked, "Cousin, is there anything else? I saw the announcement on the wall the other day." The youth's eyes were clear. He gazed at Feng Ruqing. "Have you really divorced him?" Feng Ruqing nodded slightly. She smiled. "Yes, I have given him freedom and set myself free. Lu Yuqin and I will never be together again in this life." "It's good." Nalan Jing was relieved. His eyes were filled with confusion, but he still continued asking, "I also heard that you have knocked out some youth the other day and brought him back to your manor. Was it because you fell for the youth?" Feng Ruqing was shocked that her eyes nearly popped out of her eye sockets. After a while, she recovered herself and found her voice again. "Cousin, I'll never do this kind of thing. I'll never be a villain that kidnaps youngsters." Nalan Jing looked at Feng Ruqing, but he kept silent. His facial expression hinted that Feng Ruqing was indeed that kind of person. "That's a rumor spread by the people." Feng Ruqing was fearful that Nalan Jing would not believe her. She pressed upon Nalan Jing's shoulders and said sincerely, "I'm a kind person. I brought him back because I saw him unconscious on the ground." Nalan Jing bit his lip. He could not relate Feng Ruqing with the word kindness. "Feng Ruqing, you must believe that there will be a man who will love you in this world. You will not be happy if you force someone to love you. I don't want you to harm yourself again, no matter who the man is. I don't care if he is Lu Yuqin or that youth." It was as if Feng Ruqing possessed some man forcefully again. Was this what other people thought of her? "Cousin, Lu Yuqin and I were not what you think. Moreover, I'll totally sleep with a man like the state preceptor if I really want to choose a man." Nalan Jing was stunned. He hesitated and asked, "The state preceptor? Why the state preceptor?" "It's because the state preceptor is very handsome, and he seems so pure and innocent. Won't you think that it'll be interesting to sleep with that kind of man?" Feng Ruqing smiled. She really missed the state preceptor now when they talked about the state preceptor. Feng Ruqing did not know when the state preceptor would return. Chapter 83. Fu Chun, who was wronged. Nalan Jing's face darkened. He felt that what he said just now was useless. "Cousin." Feng Ruqing acted as if she did not notice Nalan Jing's response. She smiled and patted Nalan Jing's shoulder. "The time is late now. I should head back. If you're free, do come to the Princess Manor and visit me." Feng Ruqing turned and waved goodbye at Nalan Jing when Nalan Jing had just recovered from his stupor. Feng Ruqing slowly disappeared from Nalan Jing's sight. Nalan Jing was stunned. He could not recover himself completely as he stared at Feng Ruqing's disappearing back. The sky was blue. Fu Chun was seen squatting down. His eyes were red, and it seemed that he was treated unfairly. After a while, a familiar person appeared in front of him. He grunted and turned away, refusing to look at the person who had appeared out of nowhere. Qing Han stood up and looked at Feng Ruqing fearfully. "Our guardian, you've come." Feng Ruqing patted Qing Han's head, then turned to look at Fu Chun. She raised her eyebrows and asked, "Are you angry?" "Umph." Fu Chen's face clearly showed anger. "There's a grade 3 spirit herb, and yet you did not allow me to eat it. I've been hungry for over 1,000 years now. Are you so cruel as to let me stay hungry forever?" Feng Ruqing's heart softened at the sight of Fu Chen's anguished face. "I promise you, it'll improve my strength soon. When I reach true warrior tier, I'll be able to grow grade 3 spirit herbs for you. Then, you can eat as many as you want." "Really?" Fu Chen's eyes sparkled. "Are you telling the truth?" Feng Ruqing's eyes narrowed and smiled. "So, do you know of any way that I can improve my strength in a short time, so that you can eat delicious food soon?" Fu Chen almost cried. He knew that nothing good would happen when this woman appeared. Indeed, she came and wanted to extort him. "I don't." "Fu Chen." Feng Ruqing picked up the small fellow whose eyes were swollen now. Her smile became wider. "You lied to me before. You told me that the Divine Herbs sect was dissolved. But now I know that it still exists. Shouldn't you be explaining yourself? My status as your guardian is too unstable." She was too busy these few days to work this incident out with Fu Chun. She could now ask him for a good explanation now that she was free. Fu Chun was stunned as looked at Feng Ruqing. Does the Divine Herbs sect still exist? It was impossible. The sect master was dead. The people of the Divine Herbs sect were almost wiped out. Those people who were left were people with no true strength. Even the true soul of the Divine Herbs sect was transferred into this medium. Divine Herbs sect? How could it still exist? Why would I lie to you? Feng Ruqing's eyes narrowed again. This technique of growing spirit herbs originated from the Divine Herbs sect. No one knew about it, even if you were at a high position in Divine Herbs sect. Now that you have imparted this knowledge to me, it is like pushing me into a fire pit. But, Fu Chen lowered his head in shame. I don't know why there's still a Divine Herbs sect in this world. That Divine Herbs sect must be fake. Feng Ruqing smiled brightly and looked down at Fu Chen. I don't care whether it's real or fake. That Divine Herbs sect does have the ability to grow spirit herbs. Won't you show me how to improve my strength so that I am strong enough to tackle this Divine Herbs sect? Fu Chen soon lost the desire to talk. He now knew that Feng Ruqing had come today just to extort him. Chapter 84. Ordinary flowers and plants but I have given you all my precious collection. I really have nothing left to give you now. Fu Chen bit his lip. He looked so pitiful. So, I can't really help you even if I wanted to. Feng Ruqing hesitated for a moment before she sighed. This is indeed too hard for you. But, never mind. I'm born with the fear of death. I'll not waste my life that I have a chance to live this life again. It's fine if I am not your guardian. Fu Chen was shocked. We're humans. This shameless? I'm left with the last sword. Fu Chen flicked his finger, and a long black sword appeared in his hand. He growled, You wicked and cruel woman. Now you have tricked me into giving you my last food. That sword was black like iron, and it was somehow rusted. But the dragon mark on the sword was still clear, and it looked so real that it looked like it might come out of the sword any time now. Feng Ruqing's face darkened. She looked at Fu Chen doubtfully. Don't tell me that you have just simply whipped out a normal sword for me. Fu Chen was so angry that he stomped his feet. His face was red with anger. He snarled, How dare you doubt me? Am I that kind of person who would lie? This sword is so powerful that I cannot devour it now. In fact, I want to keep it so that I can eat it later, but now that you have tricked me into giving this to you. Was this woman a demon? She had fooled him into giving up his food, and now she doubted him too. How outrageous. Feng Ruqing realized that Fu Chen was not lying. She received the sword with a smile. You're really my good son. I'll definitely take you with me to explore this land when I have gained true strength in the future. Fu Chen was quiet. This son was treated too unfairly. Why aren't you going for training? Fu Chen grunted. He did not want to look at this woman anymore. He really had nothing now. Qing Han might be taken away too if this woman stayed. Brother Fu Chen, brother. Qing Han tugged at Fu Chen's sleeves and whispered, You better be careful with your words. Don't make her angry. We can still gossip about her after she has left. Feng Ruqing's face darkened. However, Feng Ruqing had heard everything. But Feng Ruqing was in a good mood after receiving the sword. So, she chose not to argue with these two kids. She patted the hilt, smiled, and said, The two of you can just play around. You can call me next time if you miss me. I'll come and accompany you. Fu Chen kept quiet. Miss her? Never. He, Fu Chen, would never miss her even if he died here because of hunger. Qing Han's temper is better. Feng Ruqing ignored Fu Chen when she found that Fu Chen was ignoring her. She turned and looked at Qing Han. She stroked Qing Han's head. Qing Han, you must remember to call me if you miss me. I'll definitely come. Qing Han was stunned. She said fearfully, Can I not miss you? Feng Ruqing's face darkened even more. Was she this unwelcomed by these two fellows? And they could talk about this in private. Why did they bring it up in front of Feng Ruqing? Ahem. Feng Ruqing coughed twice to ease the awkwardness. Then, I'll come and meet you if I miss you. Why did Chainer decide to stay after I listened to you and release some spiritual qi? Fu Chen looked up at Feng Ruqing, bit his lip and said, Your spiritual qi is special. Now that you have the habit of growing spirit herbs, Your presence is accompanied by the spirit of the spirit herbs. I only added something to your spiritual chi to ease Qin Chen's pain. Of course he would stay. Chapter 85. Ordinary Flowers and Plants 2IC. Feng Ruking's eyes narrowed. She should be able to guess that Fu Chun was behind all of this. Fu Chun could influence the world outside, even in this medium. How strong was he before? This son was adopted for good. That youth. Fu Chun was silent for a while and said, "He is special. But you won't understand what I say now. You just train him nicely, and one day, he will become your strong combat companion." Feng Ruqing raised her eyes and pondered for a while. Suddenly, she raised her head and looked up at the clear blue sky. It seemed that she could see through the blue sky and right at the youth's smile. "I really don't care whether he's a genius or a disabled. I'll protect him for the rest of his life. I will help him and let him stay. It's not because of his specialty. It's because he looks so much like Cheer." She would not care even if he was disabled. She could still protect him and take care of him in this life. The reason that she saved him was never because of his specialty, and it never was for the sake of training him to become her combat companion. It was because Chainer and Cheer looked so much alike. Fu Chun was stunned. He looked at Feng Ruqing blankly without a word. This demon. There were also times when she would not ask for anything in return. Why did she treat them differently? Fu Chun, Qing Han. Feng Ruqing lowered her eyes, stroked their heads, and said, "That grade 3 spirit herb belongs to my grandpa. I cannot give that to you, but you must trust me. You'll not be hungry for long." Feng Ruqing would work hard to improve her strength even if it was for Fu Qian and Qing Han's sake. She could only grow grade 3 spirit herbs when she had had enough strength. "I trust you." Qing Han smiled rather shyly. "I never get in touch with human beings. But I do know that humans' guardians won't lie to their sons. You are our guardian. You won't lie to us." Feng Ruqing was surprised. She solemnly squeezed Qing Han's shoulders with her hands. "Qing Han, you must remember that you're a girl. You're not a son. You're a daughter." "Daughter?" Qing Han was confused. She looked at Feng Ruqing blankly. "But Fu Chen brother is your son. In the same species as Fu Chun. Why is it different?" Feng Ruqing was nervous now. "Fu Chen, what have you been teaching her all this while? She is not young anymore. There should be a difference in gender, and she's a normal girl. Why did you let her treat herself like a boy? How is she the same species as you?" Fu Chen's face darkened. He pulled Qing Han aside. "Qing Han, let me tell you. Don't ever use the word species to describe both of us again. The word species is used to describe ordinary flowers and plants. How could these things be compared to us?" "All right." Qing Han nodded without fully understanding what she had just heard. Fu Chun continued solemnly, "Moreover, have you forgotten how this wicked woman has just tricked our last possession from us? Why would you say that she would not lie to us? Are you stupid? That was not a trick. Brother Fu Chen willingly gave it to her." Feng Ruking's eyes narrowed as she listened to their childlike voice. It looked like she had received some horrible news. "You can just continue your discussions. I'll go back and train." Feng Ruqing composed herself. She smiled and waved goodbye to Fu Chun and Qing Han. Now, Fu Chun was reluctant to tell Qing Han about her true identity. But one day, Qing Han would completely possess Fu Chun. Feng Ruqing lay down on her bed after returning from the medium. She stretched her arms and got up from her bed. "There's still half a month left before the state preceptor returns. I need to train harder." She did not let her guard down just for the sake of sleeping with the state preceptor. Chapter 86. Training. A half a month had unknowingly and quickly passed. Within this half a month, apart from taking care of the spirit herbs, Feng Ruqing spent the rest of her time in training with the help of the spiritual force from the Book of Spirit Herbs. Luckily, nobody disturbed her these past few days, so she could focus on her training. At this moment in the room, a young woman who was practicing her cultivation with her eyes closed suddenly opened her eyes. She slowly exhaled a breath of foul air. Her lips curved into a gentle smile. "Finally, I have reached a higher rank of beginner warrior tier within half a month. However, I still have a long way to go in my cultivation training. One day, I believe I can prove to everyone that Nalan Empress daughter is not someone weak. The young woman's face was still chubby, but her defined face outline had started to show a little. It was not a whole bunch of fat layers anymore. Her eyes were full of strong determination and bright hope. When Feng Ruching pushed the door and stepped out, she saw a youth standing under a nearby willow tree. He had pretty and delicate features like fine jade. His eyes were shiny and mesmerizing. He smiled a little, and his gaze drifted to Feng Ruching, who was walking out of the room. "Qingqing, you have become thinner again." Every time Qingqing stepped out from the room, he would realize that she had lost some weight. However, the current Qingqing looked prettier than before. "Chainer, I want to go somewhere, so please accompany me." Feng Ruching sighed. Although she had lost some weight with the help of the herbal dish, it would take a long time for her to be slim due to the original owner's overly obese body. It was not easy at all. "I will accompany you wherever you go." Qin Shen looked at Feng Ruching with a piercing stare. In this lifetime, he would follow her no matter where she wanted to go. "I would never leave you in this lifetime." The backyard of the Imperial Palace on the Forbidden Mountain, Feng Rushuang curled up into a ball. She was trembling while hugging her knees tightly. Her face was pale. Feng Ruching. It was her fault. Why? Both of them were the Emperor's daughters. But why did only Feng Ruching get to enjoy all the love and affection despite being obese and ill-mannered? Father still pampered her and showered her with love. However, even though she was better, Father never looked at her even once. Cold. It was so cold. Feng Rushuang bit her lip hard. Her eyes were filled with hatred as she dug her nails into her palms. "Schwanger, schwanger." All of a sudden, a familiar voice could be heard from the front. Feng Rushuang quickly raised her head and lifted herself from the ground. Her eyes glimmered with excitement and joy. In the distance, she could see Lu Rong walking hurriedly toward her. She could not stand waiting for Lu Rong to come in, so she rushed to her instantly. "Concubine mother, is father finally concerned about me and wants to release me from here? Where is he? Why isn't he here? This place is really not for humans. It is not only freezing, but I also have to be alert of the spirit beasts around here. I am really scared." Looking at Feng Rushuang's red eyes, Lu Rong's heart sank. She held her daughter's cold hands and sighed. "Those ministers have pleaded to His Majesty to release you, but he still dragged it for a few days. I came to see you here once my punishment was over." Lu Rong's reputation was extremely bad among the ministers simply because she had cheated the iron-blooded token from Feng Ruching. However, comparing both Feng Rushuang and Feng Ruching, those ministers would still side with Feng Rushuang. Even though this situation persisted, His Majesty still resisted the pressure and locked her up for this long. If she continued being locked up there, who knew what the spirit beast would do to her? That was why he finally agreed to let her off. Chapter 87. Training 2. Concubine Mother. Am I really father's biological daughter? I don't understand. Both of us are his daughters, but why can't I get his affection and love? Feng Rushuang lashed out in anger. Is it because I am not Empress Nalan's daughter? Schwanger. Lu Rong's voice sounded harsher. She asked in a trembling voice, "What did you just say?" Feng Rushuang shivered after hearing her stern voice. She pouted a little. "Concubine mother, I didn't mean it that way. I am just blaming father for his bias. Enough. Don't speak anymore." Nalan Yin, this woman again. She had snatched away His Majesty's heart, and now even Schwanger wished to have a mother like her? "Schwanger, listen to me." Lu Rong inhaled deeply and held Feng Rushuang's shoulders tightly. Nalan Yin is nobody but a mink who seduced His Majesty with her charms. You must be more excellent than her daughter. Then the people will realize that His Majesty's previous choice was a mistake. Feng Rushuang stared blankly and lowered her head. She was confused as to why Feng Ruching had somehow changed after waking up from her coma. "I have been the evil villain for so many years. Everyone knows about how I cheated Feng Ruching of her iron-blooded token, and they loathe me for that. But you are not the same. I have nurtured you this way so that the people would realize how amazing you are." No matter how bad Feng Ruching's reputation was in the people's eyes, Empress Nalan was still their beloved heroine. She had tricked the iron-blooded token into her hand. That was why they had a bad impression of her. There was only one aim for all the wicked things that she had done: to turn Feng Ruching into someone stubborn and obstreperous so that she could be a good contrast to Schwanger excellence. She believed that her Schwanger would become the best woman in the world, and the only one who suited the state preceptor. Concubine mother, I understand. Feng Rushuang stayed silent for a while before raising her head and looking at Lu Rong. I know what I should do. I am not satisfied, too, to be stepped over by a useless fatty. I will prove to father that choosing Feng Ruching over me is his worst mistake ever. She was pretty and clever, apart from being gentle and cute. What about Feng Ruching? She was not only obese and ugly, but she was also a lazy and useless person. How could that kind of person be compared to her? She was unworthy. Lu Rong's facial expressions finally softened a little. She smiled. This is how my daughter should be. By the way, previously you have led those ministers' children in researching the cure for a thigh injury. Is there any progress? Feng Rushuang laughed out loud. Concubine mother, Nayland Dyer is beautiful at such a young age. She will be a femme fatale when she grows up, and maybe she will become a threat to Lu Yun Kingdom later. I took advantage of Feng Ruching to destroy her beauty for her own sake. How is it possible for me to really heal her thigh scar? Only people like Lu Yueying would fully trust her. However, thanks to Feng Ruching, without this opportunity given by her, she would not be able to rescue those people from being scolded by Feng Ruching. And those people would never be this loyal to her. Good then. Time is getting late. Let's leave this place first. Lu Rong's face was plastered with a smile. She turned and walked down the Forbidden Mountain. Not far away from the Forbidden Mountain, a palace maid was looking suspiciously around the place. Once Lu Rong walked down with Feng Rushuang, she quickly rushed to them and bowed respectfully. This servant has come to pay respects to noble consort, princess. Let's go. Lu Rong waved her hand to dismiss the palace maid's bow and headed to the front. Chapter 88. Neglected Feng Rushuang. I Qin Hui Riverside, Paramount. There were many talented young people already seated. Noise poured from the restaurant. Sometimes it was mixed with the giggling sounds of the young ladies. At this moment, a youth spotted Feng Rushuang standing at the door. He quickly stood up and greeted her happily. Princess, you are finally out. The laughter ceased abruptly. Everyone diverted their eyes to Feng Rushuang. A glimpse of surprise flashed through their eyes. They did not expect to see her at this meeting. Feng Rushuang smiled faintly. Some time ago, I had annoyed His Majesty because of sister. That was why father had locked me up in the Forbidden Mountain. Fortunately, father had finally found out the truth and released me from that place. The hidden meaning in her words hinted that she was locked in the Forbidden Mountain because Feng Ruching had purposely accused her of something she did not do in front of Feng Tianyu. And now that Feng Tianyu had found out that he had blamed her wrongly, she was released. In the past, many would have voiced their support to Feng Rushuang after she had said something like this. However, this time, the whole of Paramount was dead silent. Everyone looked so awkward and did not know how to react to Feng Rushuang's words. What's wrong? Feng Rushuang frowned in confusion. She was locked up for half a month. Why? She felt that something had happened during her absence. Second princess, you're locked up because of the Princess Royal? Zhao Yang uttered his question after a moment of silence. Feng Rushuang was not like Feng Ruching. She usually had a good temper, so even though he had questioned her in this way, she would not get irritated. That was why he had dared to say something like this. Feng Rushuang smiled bitterly while shaking her head. Let's not talk about this matter anymore. As long as all of you know she is my older sister, that's enough. She lost her mother since she was young, so my concubine mother treats her with more compassion. I respect and love her too. No matter what she has done, I will always forgive her. Her eyes were shining brightly. Her lips curved into a mesmerizing smile that could capture everyone's heart. However, Feng Rushuang lowered her gaze and sighed. Although I can forgive whatever she has done to me, I cannot forgive her for what she has done to Dyer. In fact, she had purposely accused me and caused me to be locked up at the Forbidden Mountain to stop me from researching for a cure for Dyer's scar. Paramount fell into a pin-drop silence. Suddenly, A melodious voice like a flowing stream came from the entrance. Seems like I came at the wrong time. This voice was a nightmare to Feng Rushuang. Her body slightly stiffened. She clenched her fists tightly and tried to control her emotions from within while remained smiling. Once she turned around, she gave a bright and mischievous sweet smile. Sister, how come you are here? This woman, Feng Ruching, didn't she know that these royal young masters and mistresses loathed her to the bone? How could she still appear in front of them? When Feng Rushuang saw the silhouette at the door, her smile froze instantly. Her eyes widened in disbelief. Last time, whenever she saw Feng Ruching, she would have put on some weight. She had not seen her for nearly 1 month, and somehow she felt that this woman had lost some weight. Although her current body size was still considered fat, what Feng Rushuang could not stand was the fact that she had slimmed down. Chapter 89. Neglected Feng Rushuang 2. Sister. Feng Rushuang regained her composure. She dug her nails into her palms to control her overwhelming emotions from exploding. She smiled sweetly. I have seen you just not long ago. You have become thinner. It must be because the food at the Princess Manor is not as good as in the palace. Why don't you follow me back to the palace? Empress Nailin was very beautiful, so Feng Ruching too had fine and delicate features since young. Thus, her concubine mother had put a lot of effort to turn her into an obese girl. She would not let their few years of effort wasted for nothing. Feng Ruching squinted and smiled. Sister Rushuang, I bet you do not want to see me slim down. That's why you are so desperate to drag me back so that I will fatten up again. Feng Rushuang's smile became harder to fake. She faked a laugh. Sister, you've misunderstood me. I just miss you. If you do not follow me back, I will be alone. How boring would that be? Oh, really? If you missed me, why don't you accompany me to the Beast Court again this afternoon? I feel like going there again. Feng Ruching smirked and turned to Feng Rushuang. Feng Rushuang stiffened when she thought of how Feng Ruching had tricked her to pay for the bill. Her face instantly paled, but she held herself back from saying anything. Looking at Feng Rushuang's constipated expression, Feng Ruching sneered and walked past her to the young people's group. Feng Rushuang bit her lip hard and remained silent. She was still confused about Feng Ruching's presence here. Everyone was afraid of her and hated her appalling behavior, so nobody would give a damn about her later. As she expected, the paramount became even quieter as nobody dared to make a noise when Feng Ruching stepped inside. Their facial expressions were unreadable and complicated. Sister, since you are already here, you may join us in the research for scar healing. A hint of mockery flashed through Feng Rushuang's eyes instantly before she started to look vulnerable. It doesn't matter whether the people who are present here welcome you or not. I will always stay by your side. She averted her gaze to the rest of the people and continued. All of you please be seated. Not long ago, I have discussed with the imperial physician for a few days and nights, and we have come out with some new ideas. As long as it can help Dyer, I am willing to put in more effort.
Ahem.
Zhao Yang became more awkward. This time he did not respond to Feng Rushuang, but stared at Feng Ruching. Your Royal Highness, last time, you gave us a method and Mu Qinger had someone to test it out. It worked really well. I would like to know how you came out with such a method. Last time, all of them did not believe in Feng Ruching's words. They even refused to believe that this evil princess did have some real talent. However, Mu Qinger had found someone to test out the method. It could really heal the scar. Although it had just lightened the scar a little, this small progress had given them some hope. Feng Rushuang's face stiffened. Her unfinished words were stuck in her throat, which made her feel very uncomfortable. The method given by Feng Ruching managed to heal the scar? Impossible. This Feng Ruching only knew how to eat and sleep apart from creating trouble. She was useless. She could not possess such ability. Actually, Feng Ruching shrugged and smiled sweetly. We must thank noble consort Rong for all of this. Because of her, I love eating pork trotters. There was a time when I had accidentally injured my hand, and this herbal dish had healed my scars. Chapter 90. Gigolo? Herbal dish? Zhao Yang asked dazedly. Yes, herbal dish. Feng Ruching diverted her eyes to everyone who was present and continued. Everyone knows that I have a kitchen in my serene palace. I love eating and have a lot of free time. So I usually cook the herbs and food together. They always end up as herbal dishes. Spirit herbal cuisine and regular herbal cuisine contain similar ingredients. In fact, spirit herbs originated from ordinary herbs which later turned into spirit herbs after absorbing more spiritual qi. Thus, Feng Ruching only needed to slightly modify her spirit herbal dish, so regular people could cook it too. However, its effect was just 1/10 of a spirit herbal dish. Feng Ruchuang dug her nails into her palms hard. Herbal cuisine? Feng Ruching did not even understand anything about pharmacology. How could she know about herbal cuisine? Sister, Feng Ruchuang approached Feng Ruching with a faint smile. Her eyes were filled with innocence and confusion. Since when did you know pharmacology theories? Based on my understanding, herbs and food ingredients cannot be cooked together. What if the effects of the ingredients clashes with each other? Wouldn't it result in death? Feng Ruching maintained her smile. Since you care about people's life, next time when I cook a herbal dish, why don't you try it first? Feng Ruchuang's face stiffened. Test the herbal dish? Who knew what she would put in the herbal dish? Wouldn't it be putting her own life in danger? Besides, even if she was poisoned for real, His Majesty would never blame Feng Ruching at all. Sister, you like to joke with me. How would I ever doubt your ability? By the way, I saw Lu Yuqin and Tan Shuangshuang some time ago. I never knew that they love each other so much. However, Lu Yuqin said you are still bothering him, so I implore you to stop being stubborn. Feng Ruchuang's expressions seemed very genuine, and that made nobody doubt her words. These past few days, although Feng Ruchuang was locked up at the Forbidden Mountain and completely unaware of what was happening outside of the palace, she was confident that Feng Ruching would not give up on Lu Yuqin that easily. Thus, the words she claimed were said by Lu Yuqin were true, but simply her prediction. However, she did not notice that the young people looked astonished after she had finished talking. As far as the people of the imperial city concerned, Feng Ruching was considered as a well-known person. Everybody knew about her. The incident that had happened between Lu Yuqin and her at Southern Street had spread among the people like wildfire. Lu Yuqin was the one who had stopped Feng Ruching, but she did not even as much as glance at him. Moreover, Feng Ruching rarely left the Princess Manor recently. How could the rumor of her bothering Lu Yuqin even start? Once Feng Ruching listened to Feng Ruchuang's words, she laughed silently. She responded, I did not know that I am constantly bugging Lu Yuqin. I thought Lu Yuqin still misses me. That was why he had blocked me on the street and prevented me from leaving. Feng Ruchuang was dumbfounded. Lu Yuqin had stopped Feng Ruching on the street? Was this possible? Lu Yuqin had always avoided her. He could not have behaved like this on the street. Sister, I'm giving you some advice because I don't want to see you doing something stupid. Feng Ruchuang lowered her head looking dejected. Her eyes were red. You never listened to me previously and insisted on getting married to Lu Yuqin. That was why you got into trouble. Everyone looked at Feng Ruchuang in astonishment. Second princess. Mu Qing'er tugged at Feng Ruchuang's sleeve as her face reddened. It is true that not long ago, Lu Yuqin had blocked the Princess Royal on the street. Of course, it did not mean that Lu Yuqin had fallen in love with this spoilt princess, but everyone knew that Feng Ruching did not even look at Lu Yuqin that day. Moreover, Mu Qing'er hesitated before continuing. The Princess Royal brought back a gigolo from somewhere. Everyone knows about this too. Chapter 91. Look for Lu Yuqin at Lu Manor this time. Feng Ruching's face completely darkened. Gigolo? Qinchen? However, at this moment, Feng Ruchuang's scowling face was contorted more than ever. This fatty didn't like Lu Yuqin anymore? How was it possible? Didn't she chase him around all day? How could she be willing to let him go? She put on a forced smile. She looked so pathetic and felt aggrieved. Sister, I'm sorry. I don't know that it would turn out like this. I bumped into Lu Yuqin not long ago, and he told me this personally. I really didn't know that he is the one who keeps bothering you. She pushed the blame totally on Lu Yuqin so she could remain innocent and wash her hand off of the matter. In fact, Lu Yuqin was not there anyway. Nobody could prove whether she was right or wrong. I have been deceived by this Lu Yuqin. Mu Qinger muttered angrily. Never thought he is such a manipulative person. People might believe in his false stories if the incident had not spread in the whole imperial city. Doesn't Lu Yuqin already have Tan Shuangshuang? He even ditched the princess just because of Tan Shuangshuang. Why is he asking for trouble? Zhao Yang frowned slightly as he could not understand the motive behind Lu Yuqin's action. On the contrary, nobody ever doubted Feng Rushuang. Seeing that the people had shifted their attention to Lu Yuqin, Feng Rushuang breathed a sigh of relief. Concubine mother told her that these ministers held important ranks in the government, so she must treat their children well and built a good rapport with them. In return, they would support and guide the Su family in the future. For the sake of the Su clan, she even intentionally let Feng Ruching hurt these people. However, these ministers were still pretty loyal to General Nalen. That was why Feng Rushuang had started to hit on the ministers' children. If the medicinal paste produced by them did hurt Nalen Dyer, it would definitely cause bad blood between the Nalen clan and the ministers. That was the perfect opportunity for the Su family. The ministers would support them instead. However, this perfect plan might be ruined by Feng Ruching's unexpected presence. Feng Rushuang raised her head carefully when she thought about her. She looked at Feng Ruching uneasily. Who knows what she would say out of sudden? That's it. Feng Ruching was fuming with anger. She lashed out exclaiming, I have nothing to do with Lu Yuqin anymore. Why does he keep tarnishing my reputation? I will look for Lu Yuqin for revenge at Lu Manor now. At that point, Feng Rushuang's face went pale at once. Her eyes darted around nervously and restlessly. What made her even more worried was the fact that since the herbal dishes had been successfully proven in healing scars, Lin Yueying and the rest had started to admire Feng Ruching. Although they did not openly express their admiration, it had been growing slowly in their hearts. Lu Yuqin has tarnished the prince's reputation. It's undoubtedly his fault. Princess, we can follow you to Lu Manor to look for him and hold him accountable. This also serves as my apology for my inappropriate behavior to you that day, Zhao Yang said firmly with utter sincerity. I will follow too. I want to know the reason behind Lu Yuqin's action. He does not even like Princess anymore, but is still trying hard to tarnish your name. Although all of them had hated Feng Ruching, none of them had ever tarnished her reputation. They were aware that Feng Ruching's damaged reputation would not bring any good to Lu Yun Kingdom, but would only serve as a laughingstock to other kingdoms. Her reputation had always been really bad, so why should it be tarnished further? Thus, no matter how angry they were, they would only mock her at the back but never disgrace her in public. Chapter 92. The master of Paramount I Feng Rushuang was shocked to see the people's reaction. She was just absent once. Why was everything now beyond her control? Maybe Lu Yuqin. He has some misunderstanding toward you. Feng Rushuang smiled a little, trying to reason out the whole thing. Sister, you did break the couple apart to get Lu Yuqin for yourself. So, it's quite understandable if he has misunderstood you. Please cool down, sister. You are at fault too, aren't you? She pleaded. Suddenly, everyone quietened down. It was undeniable that no matter how Feng Ruching had changed now, the past Feng Ruching had done a lot of malicious damage just to get Lu Yuqin during those days. Everyone was aware of her ill manners and wrongdoings, so it was normal for Lu Yuqin to be prejudiced against her. He could not be blamed for this. Feng Ruching sneered coldly. I am willing to admit all my mistakes in the past, but it doesn't mean that I will bear the false accusations thrown at me. Feng Rushuang, you are a princess of Lu Yun Kingdom too, the daughter of our father. Defaming my reputation is equal to a huge embarrassment to our father, and this is an unfilial act. Damaging our kingdom's reputation is a disloyal act. For someone unfilial and disloyal like you, who do you think you are to teach me a lesson? Feng Rushuang's face went red with embarrassment. Moreover, Feng Ruching smirked at Feng Rushuang and glared at her sharply. The corners of her mouth twitched. Nobody can simply teach me, Feng Ruching, a lesson. She was indeed arrogant and aggressive. Totally insufferably arrogant. Clap, clap, clap. A round of applause could be heard from Paramount upstairs. Feng Ruching looked in the direction of the clapping. In a split second, she saw a gold and purple robe appear. Half of the guy's face was covered with a mask, so she could not see his whole face. However, he seemed different from the people she had met before. Comparing to the state preceptor's cold and elegant looks, Chin's innocent looks, this guy in front of her had a mysterious and demonic aura which unknowingly draw people to him. Is this the owner of Paramount? Why is he here? Actually, Paramount was involved in many trades which included herb shop, restaurant, bank, casino, and even spirit beast court. However, this owner usually preferred to stay out of the limelight and had rarely appeared in the restaurant. His remarkable and symbolic mask did announce his presence and identity to everyone who was present. A wise old man was reverentially standing next to the guy. The old man's facial expression was masked with indifference the whole time, as if nothing concerned him. The guy walked down the stairs steadily. His steps were elegant and confident. The smirk seemed to stay on his face. The pair of dark golden orbs gave off an eerie and strange feeling. Feng Ruching felt as if she could not breathe. All of a sudden, she felt as though her heart was being squeezed with every step the guy took. This guy gave out a strong sense of pressure to the others, which caused the atmosphere around him to become slightly tense up. Staring at the guy who was walking toward Feng Ruching, Feng Rushuang clenched her fists tightly. Her eyes flared angrily. Feng Rushuang did not know what position and influence Paramount possessed in this country, but she was aware that even His Majesty would show them some respect. If she could win over Paramount, maybe His Majesty would think highly of the Liu family, and they could earn a better social status in the future. If Feng Ruching came in contact with Paramount, the Liu family's chance of gaining favor would be lowered. Feng Ruching, the daughter of Nalan Empress, is the most useless person in the world and has done countless terrible crimes by tormenting and oppressing people. Wicked, broke a couple apart, and committed all sorts of atrocious misdeeds. With every single word the guy said, Feng Ruching's face darkened with rage. Her infamous reputation had spread like wildfire and everywhere that even the owner of Paramount knew about it. Chapter 93. The Master of Paramount II. Feng Rushuang felt pleased in her heart. She walked toward Jiuming with her shimmering eyes thinking she should make her presence known now. Master Jiu, please don't blame my sister. She was young and immature back then, so she had made a lot of mistakes. I am her younger sister, so naturally, I have to bear some responsibilities for her faults. Jiuming looked on sinisterly and threw Feng Rushuang a nasty glare. His lips curved up slightly and sneered in an arrogant and pompous manner. Who are you? Feng Rushuang felt humiliated, and she was stunned upon hearing it. Her face turned a little awkward, especially when Zhao Yang and the rest looked at her. She wished to bury herself in the hole. Master Jiu, I am Feng Ruching's younger sister. Did Empress Nalan give birth to a pair of twins last time? Jiuming grinned scornfully. He did not even consider Feng Rushuang's face and reputation at all. Feng Rushuang's face flushed crimson with embarrassment. She bit her lip in shame. My mother is Noble Consult Rong. I am Feng Ruching's half-sister as we share the same father but different mothers. Oh, you are the daughter of a concubine. Jiuming mocked her with a disparaging look and snickered in a contemptuous tone. The children of a concubine are the people I hate the most in my life. You better watch out. Feng Rushuang was dumbfounded. She was shocked to find the owner of Paramount acting ignorant and couldn't care less about Liu Yun Kingdom. Although His Majesty did respect Paramount a little, it did not mean that Liu Yun Kingdom was afraid of it. Nevertheless, her concubine mother was still an honorable noble consort. How could she be compared to ordinary concubines? Currently, there was no empress in Liu Yun Kingdom, so her concubine mother would be the one to take over it one day. Feng Ruching rubbed her nose in deep thought. She liked this guy's attitude. Yes, anyone who annoyed Feng Rushuang would be in her favor. What's wrong? Jiuming suddenly caught the young woman kept staring at him without blinking her eyes. He scoffed at her and asked, Have you fallen in love with me now? Feng Ruching rolled her eyes. Get lost. She still preferred the elegant and cold state Preceptor over him. This guy was too wicked and arrogant. She was not willing to get in touch with such people. Perhaps if you can lose those fat flaps, I might consider you. Feng Ruching scoffed. Maybe if you're willing to take down the mask. If you're good-looking enough, I might consider inviting you to my princess manor. What do you think? Such a pity that you wear this mask all day long. Your face must be too ugly to be seen by others. There are so many good-looking guys in the world. Why should I choose you? Jioming squinted. His dark golden orbs flashed. Nobody can see my real face in this lifetime. Otherwise, all women in this world would chase after me, wouldn't they? Why should I create trouble for myself? Feng Rushwang's face was even darker now. She had finally met someone who was more narcissistic than the state preceptor. Feng Ruching raised her hand and patted Jioming's uncovered face. The moment her hand landed on Jioming's face, the air molecules were frozen, and the old man beside him seemed to be extremely shocked to the point of having goosebumps. He quickly turned to look at the guy beside him. Master is usually a clean freak who did not allow people to touch him. How dare this woman touch Master's face? Hey, I have seen more good-looking men than you could imagine. Who do you think you are? Her state preceptor was still the most handsome man in the world. With the state preceptor by her side, how was it possible for her to fall in love with someone else? Qin Chin's looks were not bad too. Even though he had a scar on his face, it did not affect his handsome profile. Who did this guy think he was? You are very arrogant. Jioming's eyes flashed with a malicious glare. Feng Ruching replied with a smile, as are you? You're tuning in to the Romance Rendezvous YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.